Hi folks, welcome back. So in the last couple of videos, we discussed about various kind of, implementation associated with the cloud service mesh, especially the Google managed cloud service mesh, and then we talked about, how we can secure the Google managed cloud service mesh, and then how we can, enable the gateway, and then we specifically talked about gateway APIs and then how we can implement this gateway APIs and then how we can secure all those things. So if you have seen my introduction to cloud service mesh video, so I have clearly mentioned that for all GKE clusters which are created in Google, of course the native, there the default option to create would be a manage Google Cloud Service Mesh. There is one more type which it is available for all non-Google cloud services where you are running the GK cluster, which is like in cluster cloud service mesh, which is an unmanaged cloud service mesh basically, where the control plane is not managed by the Google. You need to take care of all those patchings and all those things. So I have explained in detail in the introduction session. So in this particular video, let's try to install the cloud service mesh for GKE running on Azure. So if you don't know how to install the GKE in Azure, I have already recorded a detailed video. So I think it's number 3 or 4, maybe in the series of the playlist. I would recommend to all of you to go back and try to understand how to install the GKE on Azure, similarly how to install the GKE on AWS as well. So, to save the time, since I have already demonstrated the detailed video there, so I am ready with a installed GKE on basically Azure environment. So you can see here, this is my Azure environment basically. So all my control plane nodes are sitting here, which you can see in the virtual machine section. These are the three master nodes, and then all the the worker nodes are part of the virtual machine scale set, which is here, which is again termed as a node pool in the GKE. So if you go to GKE, so this is my cluster, and you can see here it's a two node cluster with one node pool. So in this particular node pool, I have two worker nodes. So I mean that's more than sufficient for me to demonstrate. However, if you go through the documentation of Google Service Mesh, enabling or provisioning the Google Service Mesh, you can see here there is an option for GKE, which is manage Google Cloud Service Mesh, and then for outside Google Cloud, if you click here, it is clearly says that you are viewing the guide for installing the cloud service mesh on in cluster. Basically, that is what it is available here, in cluster cloud service mesh for all the workloads which is running on off Google Cloud. Basically, when you say off Google Cloud, that means running the GKE on Azure, running the GKE on Amazon. Similarly, the attached clusters. That means you are running your say EKS cluster, and that how you can attach to the existing Anthos fleet. Similarly, if you're running your AKS cluster in Azure, and how you can attach it to the fleet. So basically, and also if you are running environment of this standalone, basically inside of a public in-house data centers, you can say, I mean sorry, private in-house data centers. Similarly, for example, you can consider as a VMware, even that would be considered as an candidate to attach as well. Or you can go ahead and always install the GKE cluster there as well. There is an option available for that as well. So anyway, so with that aspects, let's try to understand how we can install. So if you click here, if you come to the prerequisite section, so there they have mentioned a couple of prerequisites. So for example, you need to have at least 4 core CPU and 15 GB machine and 4 nodes. In my example, I'm using just two for the demonstration purpose. However, the Google recommendation would be to have 4 nodes minimum. And then the supported platforms and all they were given. Of course, when I say supported platform, whatever the stuffs which I mentioned just now about all the different attached clusters and then the GKE and different public clouds. So apart from that, if you are running in a private cluster, how you need to do all those things they have mentioned. Since I'm using the public, I'm not going to discuss that in detail. Of course, you can always go back and read the documentation. And then, another requirement is you need to have your GKE clusters attached to the fleet. That's another requirement. And all of your clusters, which should be part of that fleet. That is what they mentioned here. So if you read, these instructions in detail, whatever I'm explaining, you will understand in detail. And then one more thing you have to understand is here, in order to install the cloud service mesh on off Google Cloud environments, we use a tool called ASM CLI, which is originally, inherited from the Anthos service mesh, era. Still, in some of the old, customers, whoever is, onboarded with Anthos, they are still running Anthos service mesh with SMCLI command. So, of course, for them as well, there is a migration path provided by the Google. So that is the reason why we use this ASM CLI, because if you remember in the introduction section, I have mentioned that the default would be traffic director for all the Google Cloud Service Mesh, and then the istod implementation for all non-Google Cloud implementation. So this is not a particular scenario where the Google Cloud is used here. Of course, the Google Cloud is used just for attaching the fleet and other stuffs, and you're running the GKE. But ultimately, that cluster resources, all those stuffs are sitting in the Azure. So that's about this. And then if you come for the next step, which is like plan and installation, there they have given different specification, like whether if you want to use the mesh CA, that is what Google recommends. And if you want to come up with your own custom CA, how you can do that, that explanation also I have given. But I always recommend to go with mesh CA, because since it is already an in cluster service mesh, that means you have to take care of control plane and all. I don't think you should have an additional overhead of handling this CA certificates and all, unless and until it's emphasized, or it's pushed hard in your organization to use it. There are a couple of dependent tools to set up this. So those are like you need to have the Google Cloud CLI. Of course, you will have by this time, and then the standard command line tools like the curl, grep, set. By default, with any of the Linux flavored or Mac terminal, these are always available. Then you need to have the Git CLI, kubectl CLI, and the JQ. So once again, you need to do auth login. In my case, I have already done. And how to do this auth login? I think by this time we are much more familiar, because we have already done this several times in all our previous, uh, you know, videos and all. But still, if you want to do, you can always go back and do. I have already done. And if you see here, G Cloud uh, config list, it will show my particular project here which I'm associated with, which usually you will see after authenticating with a particular Google command line entity. So since I'm already done, I'm not going to do this once again, and directly I will go and update, I mean no, the packages, basically the components associated with the G Cloud. So let me run this, which eventually will show you what are all the packages which comes as a part of this was supposed to be updated. In my case, I managed everything to through apt command, since it's a Ubuntu machine. I mean the package manager stuffs. So I will go ahead and run this. If you see here, since it's I've already installed it as a part of the previous implementation, so that's why it is asking only for upgrade. So let's switch to root and do it, or if you want to do directly from the command line, you can run it and give the sudo password. So this would take couple of minutes. So I'll pause here, and then I'll come back once this package successfully installed. All right, let's come back. Since there is no changes, it seems, to the previous installation, I think. So I think it's all the all the packages, whatever it is there in my box, are up to date, it seems. So that is something which is good. It saved our time, or else usually it will go ahead and upgrade all these packages, whatever it is mentioned here. Basically, all your CI tools associated with the Google Cloud, like your kubectl version, customize version, Terraform tools version, scaffold, nomos package, all those things it is going and updating to the latest version. That's all this command is going to do. Now let's download the ASM CLI. So what I will do is I'll just create one directory. I mean whatever the name you want you can give. Azure Mesh. Let me go inside that. All right, so now let me download the ASM CLI here. Now I have ASM CLI. Let me give the executive uh, permission for that. So once you give execute permission for that, yeah, there you go. Yep, this is working as expected. So this is the ASM CLI version. So that's good. All right. Let's go back and ensure that you are in a particular Kubernetes context. So in my case, this is my cluster. Since I know I have already done, let me try to access the cluster. It is working. All right. So here is the thing, you in order to run the ASM CLI, it asks for a couple of uh, stuffs which you need to supply as a part of an argument. So if you see here ASM CLI, it is expecting your kubeconfig file, it's expecting your fleet ID, it's expecting your output directory, which the custom directory, whatever you want, you can give, and then of course the platform would be multi-cloud. So in order to get the kubeconfig file, I'll just do simple stuff here. What I'll do is kubectl config view usually will give you the uh, you know the config complete entry in the form of an list completely. So what I will do, I'll redirect it to a file called config. There you go. I have my kubeconfig present in this file. So always you can test kubectl config kubectl hyphen hyphen kubeconfig is equal to config. So what it does is using this particular config file, it will list the node. This is the best way to verify whether your config file is working as expected or not, or it's a valid config file or not. So now that we have proved that it's a valid config file, of course it is. What we will do is let's you know try to understand what is this ASM validate is under. So if you see here, since that we have downloaded the ASM CLI and we given the execute permission and all, the another thing which it is expecting is to give the cluster role binding, the admin role binding for the user whoever is running. I'm not going to do this at this moment. I wanted to show this how automatically ASM CLI itself will take care. So either if you can go ahead and run this. If you don't want to run this, the ASM CLI will automatically take care. How it will automatically take care, that is something which we are going to learn with the help of a command called ASM CLI validate. So what this command does is, in order to install the service mesh using ASM CLI, it is going to do list of validation, whether it is eligible, any of the packages, any of the stuffs, any of the ASM CLI versions, the dependency packages, or any other system requirements, everything is sorted or not. That is what this ASM CLI validate command is going to do. And also it is going to generate some sort of a sample, the gateway files and all those things. So that command is always helpful in doing those stuffs. Since I've already switched to a particular context, I mean the particular cluster, I'll ignore this step, and I'll go ahead and run this validate. So let me construct this command here. So cube config file in my case would be just config, and then the fleet ID it is asking. Let me grab the fleet ID. Let me go here and just if you go to all fleets, whatever the fleet host project is there, right? That is your fleet ID. So let's go and give this. The next thing would be output directory. As I said, it would be generating a couple of sample gateways and sample files and all those things. So, I'll just give a directory called test. It is going to create that directory and it is going to put all those files there. So I think we are good now. Let me go ahead and run this validate command. This could take a couple of minutes. So, let's come back once, it's completed. All right, so now the ASM CLI validate command is completed. So if you see here, there are a couple of warnings and errors it has given. So in the error message, you can see, you need, you can enable the cluster labels, and alternatively, there are whatever, the other missing everything in one chart. With the help of this hyphen hyphen enable all, you can fix everything. So, that is what the recommendation from the ASM validate. Now that ASM validate command is successfully completed, as I was saying, it will create a directory called test. So now let's go inside the test directory and see. So if you see here, the version of ASM CLI, and in the istio is, the CTL, which is extracted from that ASM CLI. Basically, this is in cluster cloud service mesh. The implementation would be istio, so which is totally different from a managed cloud service mesh where the traffic directory will be the default implementation. So inside the samples directory you will find the couple of gateway definitions and other sample online boutique applications for demonstration purpose and all. So you can always go back and see those. So now that the validation is successful, let's go to the install cloud service mesh steps. So again, the prerequisite for this, you have to complete all three previous steps, which we have successfully completed. There are a couple of options, which it has provided in order to implement this. So you have to enable, the required APIs and all. That is what it is mentioned in this documentation and all. You can always, go back and enable these APIs. In my case, I have already enabled. And also, the couple of roles they have mentioned here. Since I am the project owner for this, I am using that feature. So for me, it's not required to enable all these roles. Whereas in the actual production scenario, when you implement this, you need to enable these specific roles, and then you need to try. The project owner will have all these permissions and roles, so no need to separately implement this. Now let's directly jump into install cloud service mesh. So here's the thing, you have given an option to install the cloud service mesh for different flavors. First is an on-premise, we are not doing it in on-premise. So let's go to the AWS example and then Azure example, and these two are the attached cluster scenarios. Since the GKE, in my case it is installed in the Azure, so I'll go back to this tab. So if you see here, since I'm already in this context, the only the command which differs is rather than validate, give the install. Rest of the configuration is pretty much same. And only one thing is, as I said, hyphen enable all will fix all the required permissions, roles, whatever it is required, and the service mesh. This I was saying, showing in the previous, scenario. The previous step where it is mentioned that either you can directly go and use the mesh CA, which is highly recommended, or you can come up with your own CA. Then that way also you can achieve it. The cloud service mesh has given an option for that as well. So since I'm using the mesh CA, I would be leveraging this installation command. So what I'll do is I will go back and run the previous command itself, which is this, and I would be modifying it little bit. Rather than validate, I will give install. And apart from that, I will be giving this enable all feature at the end, and the mesh CA. That's all. So it would take, a couple of minutes. So let's come back, once the installation is successful. All right. So I think now the HTOCTL, the commands, whatever it is required, they're supposed to run as a part of this ASM CLI. I think it has run successfully, and then even the ASM CLI, the core command also, successful. So, you can always go back and check here what are the steps, it is, following and all those things. So if you see in when you do, ASM CLI install, uh, typically, it will check what are all the steps it is required. As a part of the validation, it is already doing, but once again, whatever the steps which is required, everything, it will check, and then it will go and add whatever the labels it is supposed to be added, and then using the istio command, it will go ahead and install the istio and all those things, and then the corresponding whatever the role bindings required, everything it will take care, using hyphen enable all. So now let's quickly check whether it's successfully installed or not. There you go. You see, something called as an istio system namespace. So let's check this. Super. So you can see here, like the Istio, the daemon deployment. So that's what, I was mentioning. The implementation for, in cluster cloud service mesh would be Istio-D, unlike the traffic director for manage cloud service mesh. So, that's how you are going to install the in-cluster cloud service mesh using ASM CLI. It's very, simple and straightforward because these are the stuffs which are inherited from the Anthos service mesh stuffs. So it's very straightforward stuff. So, again, in this cloud service mesh, you can go ahead and install the gateway and, test the sample application and all, which I've already, recorded in one of my video. You can always go back and see there is a dedicated video for installing the gateway and installing the applications inside a gateway using the gateway APIs and then the virtual service and all those things with the sample application of Nginx. I think I have explained. So same steps you can go ahead and execute here 100%, those are working codes, it will work. So with that, let's conclude the session. So, to summarize in this particular video, what we have done is we have demonstrated how we can install the cloud service mesh in an of Google Cloud environment, specifically the GKE and Azure. Similarly, you can install the cloud service mesh for, GKE and Amazon as well, which we are going to see in the next video. So until then, thank you. Thanks for, watching this, and please do subscribe to my channel and support me. Thank you so much, guys.